Today's story, my friends, is as follows. This story is brought down in Chassidus. It's a story with the Beis Yosef. The Beis Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Cairo, who lived his latter years in Tzvas in the 1500s. Rabbi Yosef Cairo, as we all know, was the author of the Shulchan Aruch, the first code of Jewish law, and was one of the greatest teachers of Israel in all of history. He's widely viewed as being the first of the epoch of the Achronim, right? The latter scholars. We're not going to a historical discussion now, but Jewish scholarship is divided into categories over the millennia, and we're in the period known as the Achronim, and within the Achronim itself, there's the early Achronim and there's the latter Achronim. So he's widely regarded as being the first of the early Achronim, and he's one of the great teachers of Israel of all time, the author of the code of Jewish law upon which all codes of Jewish law are based. He was a great Kabbalist as well, and he lived in Tzvas, and he was a teacher to many of the great luminaries in Judaism, both Kabbalistic and Talmudic, halachic. Again, the author of the Shulchan Aruch. He's called the Beis Yosef because before he wrote the Shulchan Aruch, he wrote a commentary called Beis Yosef on the Tur, and that became the basis of the Shulchan Aruch. So the story with the Beis Yosef is, his synagogue is in Tzfas today that everybody visits. It's a place that people go. So once the Beis Yosef was toiling very greatly in a very difficult Rambam, a very difficult passage. And he toiled and exerted himself greatly. And only after much pain and toil, I think he fasted and so on, was he able to understand this difficult passage. Sometime later, maybe even the next day, he was in the Beis Medrash, the house of study, and he hears two young fellas learning the same passage, and one of them asks his fellow the question that Beis Yosef was difficult, that Beis Yosef was toiling over on this passage. And his friend answered. And he answered exactly that which the Beis Yosef had arrived at through this tremendous exertion and toil. So this caused the Beis Yosef to feel that something was greatly amiss. Here he had to toil so profusely and profoundly in order to arrive at clarity in this difficult passage. And here he overhears a conversation that one young fellow has asked the other one answers quite simply, this is what it means. So you should know, before I go further in the story, that the Beis Yosef, he wasn't the only one that this occurred to, but he was one of them, one of the most famous. He had a Magid. A Magid means literally a preacher. Now whether it's a soul or an angel, we don't know. That depends. But this Magid would reveal things to the Beis Yosef at night in visions. In fact, he wrote a book called Magid Mishorim. You can get the Sefer. It's a most incredible Sefer, where he writes there. It seems he didn't intend it to be published, but it was published posthumously. He was like a diary, where he writes all of the visions and insights and teachings that the Magid told him. His Magid, his angel or soul, that would come to him and reveal very profound teachings, prophecies, Kabbalistic insights, and the like. So he was very distressed that here he had toiled so mightily, and a simple young scholar came up with the same solution without any effort at all. So the Magid that night revealed to him and told him, he said, do not be distressed or crestfallen. He was crestfallen. He said, it's because you toiled and you revealed and brought down that teaching to the world You opened up the path, as it were. You opened that window. It became accessible, therefore, for the ordinary person to discover it. So this young fellow that you heard, who said, oh, this is what it means, he came up with the answer that you took so much exertion. You, as it were, opened up that door through mighty and strenuous effort. But once that door is open, it's available in the world for anybody to be able to grasp. End of story. Now, friends, this applies how much more so to Chassidus. So in general, the message is an incredible message. When a person achieves something very extraordinary, through toil and sacrifice, he then makes that available and possible for others to follow on his path, because he's opened up, he trotted out that path, as it were. And it's true in so many areas. Avraham Avinu's sacrifice, readiness to bring the ultimate sacrifice, he bequeaths that to all his generation thereafter, on whatever level. How are they able to do that? And Jews, in a way, had more sacrifice than Abraham did. So why is he touted as the embodiment of self-sacrifice? Because he began it. And before he broke down that barrier, nobody could. And once he did, it now becomes available for humanity to be able to follow on his path. And the same is true here in the world of intellect, of study, of Torah, etc. So just a final comment when it comes to Chassidus as well. We should know that what we're learning now, particularly in this mind, probing the depth of the essence of God and the infinite and the finite, the only reason that we can even talk about these things, and to whatever degree we're all getting some measure of understanding, is because the Rabbi opened up these doors, these heavenly doors which were locked for millennia. And in fact, as we all know the story of Chassidus, it didn't come easily. For the Alter Rebbe to reveal these teachings, there was a howl of protest on earth, reflective of a howl of protest in heaven. Heaven was saying, angels and the loftiest emanations in heaven were saying that how could these secrets become available to ordinary people of sullied minds and hearts? And yet the Alter Rebbe persevered. He paid the price. He was imprisoned and suffered, and lives were given up for this, in order that that before Mashiach comes, you and I should be able to learn, and because this is what God desires ultimately, that we be privy to and connect to Him in the deepest, most intimate way. But we need to appreciate that this came as a great price and sacrifice by the Rebbes and so on, and Chassidim and those before us, to open up these doors and make it all available to us.